Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of my decluttering series. We are moving on today. Last week we made great progress and we cleared out the bronzers and the contours drawer. I have 2 missing, or is it 3? 2 or 3. They're in my everyday makeup bag at the moment. I need to put them back, but this drawer used to be filled to the top, so that was awesome. Today we're gonna be moving over to these 2 drawers here at the bottom. This is one of those larger drawers. It is stuffed to the brim with eyeshadows in here. I can't even see in here. I have this drawer. I have the bottom drawer. Not to mention, I also have some eyeshadow palettes up here on this bookshelf and behind me on the coffin shelf where I normally sit. I have way too much freaking eyeshadow. This is insane. I mean, I want to cut over half of the collection here. I do believe this is going to be split up into 2 different parts because it is a lot of eyeshadow. I don't know if we'll be able to get through it, and I know it can kind of get a little bit long. So I'm going to split it up into 2 parts. That way it's a little bit easier to kind of watch through. I'm going to try my best to not talk about everything for too long to hopefully keep things a little bit speedy here. But that is going to be what we're doing today. We're going to be working on the eyeshadow declutter. Let's do this. All right, first things first, let's start by removing everything from this drawer, moving it out, giving this drawer a good cleaning. Oh, lashes, these aren't supposed to be in here. While I was removing all the eyeshadow palettes, I decided I wanted to count them. That way we can keep a tally of what each drawer contained and what number we end up with at the end. But I'm a little nervous to share the number of what exactly was just inside of this drawer here because it is a lot. It is way too much. I completely and 100% understand and agree that this is an insane amount of eyeshadow palettes to have just for myself. And yeah, I'm making some changes in order that this will not happen again. I do have a lot of old eyeshadow palettes that of course just haven't made its way out of the collection. Lots of excuses, but yeah, 64. That is insane. I want to say like just keep a handful of them. That way we make it a whole lot more manageable since we got other drawers and things to go through too. But I know myself, I love eyeshadow. It's my weakness. Always has been. I want to go into it saying maybe keep just like 10 eyeshadow palettes, but I guess we'll kind of see how things go here. I'm gonna try to be very cutthroat. The goal is not to hoard. The goal is to be able to have a manageable amount so that way I can start using things again. So yeah, let's go ahead and get on started with the first batch. And first up, let's start with my Wet n Wild collection here. I got 4 different eyeshadow palettes by them. There was VIP Purple, Not a Basic Peach, my Glamour Squad, and lastly, Cosmic Collision. So these 4 are gonna be going from the collection purely because they are very old. I believe it's like 6 or 7 years ago that I got these eyeshadow palettes, so definitely should not be using them anymore. But honestly, Wet n Wild does make some great eyeshadows. I haven't checked out their stuff in so long though, so I wonder if it's the same kind of formula and things like that. I might need to go and check them out, see what they've been up to recently, because I have not bought anything from Wet n Wild in forever. But great little palettes, just very old. Another set of 2 that are gonna be going from the collection. These ones are gonna be going because they are very old. I have the Morphe James Charles eyeshadow palette here. Very beautiful, lots of shades, lots of colors. It was a great little palette. I also picked up as a comparison in a video the Wet n Wild James Charles like dupe palette. Theirs looked like this. Had fun making that video. That one was several years ago. So both of these are gonna be going because they're older. And also I've kind of started to realize that these really large palettes honestly kind of makes me not really want to pick it up just because it feels like it's a little bit too much in a way. Could also have to do with the shape of it because it's like super duper big. It was almost as big as this drawer, where I have other eyeshadow palettes that have a lot of shades, but it's on a smaller scale. So then it kind of feels like it's not as much. I don't know. Anyways, we're rolling with it. Next batch. I got a little bit more drugstore here. I got some Maybelline, some L'Oreal Paradise, and a little Physicians Formula. I'm attempting to do this declutter by brands. I'm trying to group everything together in that sense. That way I feel like it makes it a little bit easier visually to see what you got. I don't know, we're testing it out. But so I got 2 Maybelline. I got the Soda Pop and Lemonade Craze. Then I had the L'Oreal Paradise Enchanted. And lastly, the Physicians Formula Butter Eyeshadow Palette Tropical Days. All 4 of these are gonna be going from the collection because they are, again, super duper old. That is a theme with a lot of these eyeshadows because I've just kind of been neglecting going through things. But I honestly did really enjoy using the Lemonade Craze and the Physicians Formula one. These ones did end up getting quite a bit of use for me. The Soda Pop and the Enchanted palette, they were good eyeshadow palettes, but they weren't like amazing, so I didn't actually reach for these two all that much. They just kind of ended up sitting in the drawer here, especially with how much eyeshadow I had. It was heavy competition, so if the eyeshadow palettes weren't amazing and they didn't grab my attention, I didn't really get a chance to use them all that much. But yeah, these were going. Now, I'm getting rid of a lot, so I want to start off with some that I think I want to end up keeping. These are the newest ones to my collection. I got 3 Natasha Denona palettes. I got 2 Pat McGrath ones. I've got the eyeshadow palette Peak and Fez. 3rd is Cupid. For the Pat McGrath, I have this Celestial Nirvana eyeshadow palette, Nude Allure. And then 2nd, I have the Divine Rose Luxe Quad, Eternal Eden. Okay, and now looking at these 2 Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes, very similar in the tones. Do I need both of these? Probably not. Especially with me having the Natasha Denona one over here, the Cupid. This one also has like the same kind of tones. Yeah, within the same family, I want to say. Maybe not the best idea to keep all of these, but I really, really want to. Oh man. Okay, nope. Cutthroat. I haven't used this one all that much. It's still got the plastic on this. Let me take this one out of the running. I'll keep these 4 instead of keeping all 5. Let's start with these 4, I think. I'm also gonna keep an open mind moving into part 2 of the eyeshadow declutter when I get into the other drawers and the other eyeshadows. It might conflict with what I'm keeping with those eyeshadows, so in part 2 I'll probably revisit the eyeshadows I keep in this video just to kind of make sure that I'm not keeping too much of the same one, so that'll be something I kind of keep in mind here. So I kept a whole bunch, let's get rid of a bunch. I have some Makeup Revolution eyeshadow palettes. I've got the Reloaded Authority palette, Ultra Neutrals, Ultra Color Explosion, and lastly, the Reloaded Provocative palette. And again, same kind of deal with this bundle here. They are very old, they've gotta go, but I am gonna be hanging on to the Ultra Color Explosion because this one has some great neon colors, and I've started to do my own Gel X nails, and I learned how to do the Aurora look with it using eyeshadows. And I saw that if you have expired eyeshadows, I mean, they still work on the nails, you just shouldn't put them on your face. So I'm gonna be keeping this one specifically for just the purpose of doing my nails because neons are gonna be great for like summer nails and things like that. So won't be using this on the face, but gonna hang on to it. I was actually looking for a neon palette the other day and I just couldn't find it at the bottom of the drawer here. Gonna say goodbye to these 3. And I'm trying to get out of the way the ones that are like, they've gotta go because they're so old. So I'm trying to do all of those first because I do have a lot of them. I have a little bundle here of all of my NYX eyeshadows. These again are very, very old, like 7+ years. So I can't use them anymore. But let's take one final look at them before they go. I had the NYX Ultimate Brights palette here. I did so much experimenting with this one back in the day. So many looks. I had the Fire palette, and I had the Earth palette. These ones were a big one. They had like a huge collab with a bunch of beauty influencers back in the day, and each one was like a different element. I still remember that. It was a great campaign. Made me want to get these, but NYX will be forever a favorite. Oh man, and these 2 ended up sneaking in here because they look like an eyeshadow palette, but these are not. These are, I believe this one's a highlighter? Oh no, it has a bronzer in there. Bronzer and highlighter. This is the Nomad Kiss of Sun palette. And then I had the True and Licious Lucky Glow Bronze and Highlight palette. These 2 were accidentally misplaced and they should have been in last week's video. And honestly, I think these are pretty much brand new. So I already chose my items for the bronzers and all of that last week, and palettes was a big one that I was kind of trying to stay away from. So let's just stick with what we had already last week. Let's get rid of these 2. They are pretty much new, so I'm gonna gift these away instead. Let's do another bundle, a little stack here. These are gonna be all of my e.l.f. eyeshadows. Starting out with my most recent, I have my little bites here. I have the Berry Bad, Truffles, and Cream and Sugar. Since these are the most recent, I can technically keep all of them, but I'm only gonna keep the Cream and Sugar and the Truffles because the Berry Bad looks very much like the Natasha Denona and the Pat McGrath that I have over here. I don't need another third palette, so I'm gonna get rid of that one, keep these two. Then I have three of the same kind here. I have the Nude palette. Oh, this one's breaking. The Drama palette. And lastly, the Party palette. And I believe that these were the older versions of the Bite eyeshadows because they're the same kind of size, but they have this much larger, like really thick packaging that was super unnecessary. So I'm gonna get rid of all three of these since I do have my Bites, the newer version. So let's get rid of these three. Then I got my larger e.l.f. palettes, and this is the Hot Chocolate Eyes palette. And I have the Opposites Attract eyeshadow palette. Honestly, I kind of forgot these two palettes. That's kind of like a sign in itself when you don't really remember the eyeshadow palette all that much. You know, it wasn't that great. Whereas some of my other ones, I'm like, I see them and I'm like, oh, that was a great eyeshadow palette, yes. Next batch, these ones are not of the same brand. These ones are one of each. Oh my gosh, this was a Makeup Revolution. I think I got like almost all of them at the time. I just thought it was adorable because it was an egg and it was Easter time. Very cute, but honestly, in the end, it was super clunky. I really did not like the packaging of it because it was just, I couldn't really put it anywhere. I mean, it had to be somewhere kind of like special for it, and it just ended up being more of a novelty than anything. And I mean, these two highlighters, just the tiniest difference in it, and it made no sense to me why they did that. Like, put like a blush or something in there. I like the eyeshadows, but that bugged me, and also the packaging. This was cute, but yeah, time to go now. Then I had the Maybelline Matte Bar, which, just like the name suggests, these are all matte shadows, and I remember that this one was all right, but it wasn't anything amazing, great, anything like that. It was just, you know, an all right eyeshadow palette, so didn't reach for this one a whole bunch. She's gotta go. And then I have one eyeshadow palette by the brand Kokie. This is their Act Neutral palette. And again, this is one of those, like, it was good, wasn't great palettes. I think I had issues with this green one where it came off a little bit patchy. I remember I really wanted it for this specific eyeshadow shade, and it ended up not really being my favorite. So gonna go. And then, oh, this one I've had for a while. It's still in its plastic. This is the Wanderlust Flower Beauty eyeshadow palette. I honestly don't know how long this one's been in here. I'm gonna see if I can check like the date code on this one, but it's still in the plastic. I'm gonna gift this one away. Don't need more eyeshadow at the moment. I need to figure this whole thing out first. And then I have an eyeshadow palette here by Believe Beauty. This is their Nearly Nude palette. This one was, I think, a Dollar General specific eyeshadow palette. I remember that they came out with like a whole line. I tested the whole thing out. I remember some things were good, some things weren't. I would probably have to watch that video again to see what I thought of this eyeshadow palette because I don't remember. I did not grab for it a whole bunch. I think I remember I like the shimmers, but that's as much as I can remember. Again, very old, gotta go anyway. Next up, I got a batch of mini eyeshadow palettes. First one is by Ariza Beauty. This is the Camo Shimmer eyeshadow. And it's actually only 3 shimmer shadows. This one up here is a matte shade, so you could create kind of like a look with it. This was a newer one. I want to say so far I haven't really kept anything that kind of tone. At least as far as the shimmers go. I might hold on to this one actually. I was thinking I might get rid of it, but you know what? I think it might go. Then I got the Pacifica Wild Hemp Infused Eyeshadow Palette. Very pretty little mini palette. I've had this one for a bit though, haven't really dipped into it, so I think I'll say goodbye to it. Then I got the NARS Pandora 2. So it's only got the 2 eyeshadows in there. We got the black and the white. These are actually really good base colors. Having just a solid black, a solid white does really help to kind of have in the collection, so I'm gonna hang on to that one. Then I have the Steve Laurent Wild Thing mini palette. Again, I think this is one I've had for a bit. I haven't really dipped into it. Let's gift it away, get someone to have some good use of it. I've got to be very cutthroat because I'm already keeping a bunch. All right, last up for this batch, we got the Pure Trolls collab. This is their World Tour. I don't actually have a purple eyeshadow palette I'm keeping yet, not of this kind. I don't remember how old this palette is though, and that's kind of where I'm a little bit stuck because I'm like, is it too old to be keeping? I think I might hang on to this one for now. This might be another one where I hang on to it for the moment, and then maybe like in part 2 we reevaluate that one. Because I believe I have other like purple shadows I might be keeping, but so far I don't have any, so let's hang on to it for right now. I found another one that shouldn't be here. This one's by Iconic London. This is their multi-use sculpting palette. Oh man, and look at that. That's almost like brand new. I can kind of see if I tilt it this way. I dipped into it like maybe once or twice. But again, I can already tell you guys that I am gonna gift this one away, and I would have done it no matter what, even if it was in the previous video. So let's gift this one away because I didn't dip into it a whole lot. New batch, random brands. Let's do this. I got 5. I have the Lorac Pro Palette, Artist Edition, Meraki. This palette, I honestly haven't reached for all that much. This one, I just thought it was a little bit iffy because a lot of the shades almost felt very similar. Like all of these mattes at the top here. Why did I need that many of the same kind of shade? Like, give me a little variety. I don't need multi-shades like that. And a lot of them kind of felt like they had very similar tones. So I didn't really reach for this one all that much. So this one's gonna go. And then the What's the Tea palette. This is by The Balm. And I think at the time this didn't bug me, but the way they set this one up, so much wasted space. Why would they only put 2 shades here in the end? I mean, I kind of get what they were doing, like the base shades, yes, totally. But there's just so much room all around where they just put like cardboard. And then they have it facing this way with a picture, and then you open it up and it's supposed to be like this way with the shades. I don't know, little details, but that kind of bugged me, so this is gonna go. Then I got something by the brand Mally, the Best Dressed Lids, Neutrals and Bolds. And this is me being a little bit picky with this one, but I don't know, I look at this palette and I just think it's a little bit boring. I don't get any inspiration when I open up this palette. I've had this one for a bit, haven't really dipped into it. I think I'll say goodbye to it because I feel like just based off that knowledge, I might keep overlooking this palette. So let's gift it away, which is actually the same kind of deal with this one. This is by the brand Dose, and it is their Freematic Eyeshadow Pro Palette. In all honesty, this is a great neutral palette. I think this would get a lot of use by somebody else, so I'm gonna gift this one away because it does have great like neutrals up here with a shimmery shadow, a highlighter there. It's a great little palette, but I don't really reach for it, and I think that's gonna keep happening, so let's pass this along. And then lastly of this bundle, we got another Morphe palette, Bronze Mocha 25B. I do think that Morphe makes some good eyeshadow palettes, but one of my big things that I do not like about the eyeshadows is I feel like they make such large eyeshadow palettes where they don't need to. Like, there's a lot of shades in here that just kind of feel very similar. It just feels like it could have been compacted. You don't need all of these shades. I think you'll find a couple that you like in here and then just use those. So some of these larger palettes, they just get a little bit like too much in a sense that they don't have enough variety. It's too much of the same single shade. So she's gonna be going quality over quantity. That's my new motto with makeup. At least it's gonna be. Next up, we got 2 of the same brands with 2 palettes each. So I have 2 eyeshadow palettes by Alter Ego. This first one is the Sahara, and the second one is the Goddess palette. This is another brand that I really haven't seen anything of in a really long time. They were big for like duping all of their eyeshadow palettes from big brands. I believe they were supposed to be like Natasha Denona dupes, at least these 2. I can't quite remember. But I remember I really love these eyeshadow palettes, especially the Goddess. This one got so much use for me just because I love the shades in here. I do think that they were very pigmented, very pretty, the whole deal with this, but these are very old now. I was actually grabbing this one the other day and I was like, oh man, should I be using this? I mean, eyeshadows, I feel like you can probably stretch them quite a bit, but I've had these for so long now, I should probably get rid of it. Then I got 2 by Ace Beauty. I got the Scarlet Dusk palette and the Serenity palette. This one's super new. I'm pretty sure I've only used this like once. It was super new and then it happened to get stuck at the bottom of the drawer for some reason. That one I haven't really played with that much, but I've used this one a bunch. I need to clean the front of that. And I love the shadow quality. So I actually think I want to keep both of them. Is that crazy? They look kind of different. I'm keeping them. How many have I kept so far? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oopsie! Next stack of shadows here. I got 6 that I picked out here. And I actually only have this stack and one more of 5, and then that is gonna be it for the eyeshadows in this drawer. So we're almost there. We've been doing good so far, powering through. First up, and this is actually not a palette. This is my little palette of single shadows that I got from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. Honestly, I have so many eyeshadows from this brand that I don't know why I kept these single shadows. So I'm gonna remove all the single shadows in here, gift those away, but I will keep my hands on this little Z palette container thing here, because that's still very good to have. And then I have 2 here by Huda Beauty, which I know for a fact I have more of her brand in the other drawers, so this is not all of my Huda collection. I've got her Nude Medium eyeshadow palette, and I have her Mercury Retrograde palette. And oh my gosh, when it comes to her shadows, she makes some really good products. This palette has been one of my favorites. I love the color scheme in here. It's one of the larger palettes, but it doesn't feel like it's repetitive, which is my huge issue with all of those big ones. This is how it should be done with like the color scheme and everything. I love this palette. I want to keep it. The Nude Medium here. Do I have something similar? I mean, in all honesty, it kind of is like a berry toned palette in a way, but it feels almost different. Let's think about this one. Let's put this in a maybe pile over here. Let's come back to it. Then I got one by the brand Hip Dot. This is their Xeon Pressed Pigment palette. And just look at those shades, beautiful. You guys kind of see that I like my berry tones, I like my purples. Let's think about this one. This kind of feels like maybe it's too similar to one of these. Does it? But it has purple. I mean, I technically have a light purple in that one. You know what? No, I have too much already I'm keeping. I need to stop. I need to stop doing this. I will gift this away. Someone else will love this. Okay, oh gosh, that was tough. But back to it. Got something by Nomad Cosmetics. This is their Intense Eyeshadow Palette Tuscany. It doesn't really look like I dipped into this one too much. I'm pretty sure that I didn't, so same kind of deal. Let's gift it away. Let's not keep too much of the same. And then lastly, we had the collab of ColourPop with Barbie. This is their Malibu Barbie palette. Oh, look at that shade, that pink. Sorry, I got excited. I completely forgot about this palette. This is a very recent one. I believe they did it when the Barbie movie was coming out. I wanna say, pretty sure. So this is a recent one. Excluding this one, because again, that one is not gonna be for face. That is gonna be for nails. Excluding that one, I'm pretty sure I don't have like a full-on colorful palette that I am keeping with these shades. So that's how I'm justifying it. It's gonna stay. Oh man, I'm terrible when it comes to eyeshadows. Moving on, we got our final stack here of eyeshadow palettes for part 1. Let's get through the last ones. First up, I have by Studio Makeup. This is their Ease to Wear eyeshadow palette. And this one very much reminds me of like the old school Naked palette. We all know them, we all had them. This gives me very much that kind of vibe. It's a very cool toned palette, but it's one of these that I've had for a while, haven't gravitated towards it. Let's gift it away. Then we got one by Milani. This is their Gilded Noir palette. Had some great cool toned eyeshadows in here. I remember there was 2 of them. I think I ended up getting rid of the other one in the last declutter, and I kept this one, so I think it's time for this one to go. If it's made it through one declutter and it's on to the next, it's gotta go. Then Beauty Bakery Breakfast in Bed eyeshadow palette. And Beauty Bakery does have some great quality products. I do really like her eyeshadows. I have another one that is in the other drawer that I do like a little bit more than this one, so I think I'll gift this one away. Let's be cutthroat here. We're at the end. So second to last now, we got the Tardiest Pro palette. And unfortunately, I am gonna be getting rid of this one because it is a very old palette, but I did really enjoy this one. This is one I feel like is a classic for Tarte. They did this one really well because they had, like, each row was supposed to be its own individual kind of like palette. Of course, you can always mix and match, but they made it kind of like specifically for each look. You had everything that you needed. This palette was just set up so perfectly. I really enjoy this one, but unfortunately, had it a little bit too long. It's gotta go. Oh, So sad. Finally, the very last palette. We got the Carity Picante, and this is actually a palette I have not been able to use that much. I've used a couple of the shades in here, which I remember those being really good, but this does have a very similar kind of look to a lot of the palettes that I was already keeping, and I think that's also why I didn't use this one all that much, because it just felt very similar to some of the other things, and especially ones that I'm gonna be keeping now, like this one, this guy over here. So I think because I haven't used it that much and all of those reasons, I'm gonna get rid of it. But that was it, you guys. This is all that is left out of the 64 palettes we started with. How many do we got left here? I'm keeping 15. Now, I'm not including this little guy because it's an empty palette, got nothing in it. I am including this one in the number. If I didn't, it'd be 14 because technically I'm not gonna use that one on the face. Does it count? I don't know. Let's say I'm only keeping 14. Let's make it sound a little bit better here. Again, I am keeping in mind though that I do still have part 2. I have more eyeshadow that I need to go through, so when it comes time to the next one, I am gonna be reevaluating the ones that I'm keeping up top here, just so I'm not keeping any palettes that are too repetitive or ones that I would rather use in the other drawer that are kind of like similar up here. So if you want to see what I'm keeping in total, make sure you check out part 2. I will hopefully get that one up not too long after this video. I'm gonna try to start speeding up my videos here, getting back to it. But yeah, that being said, that is gonna be it for today's video. I do really hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!